February 4th, 2021, 4 o'clock in the morning. Belgrade is fast asleep, covered in winter fog. But in the shadows, far from the public eye, an operation is unfolding that will forever change the face of the Balkan underworld. Hundreds of special forces armed with long barrels and wearing balaclavas silently surround key points in the city. The Partizan Stadium is blocked. Apartments in Zvezdari are blocked. A seemingly ordinary cottage in the suburban settlement of Ridapek is surrounded. Operation Otimach, Extorter, has begun. The silence of the Belgrade morning was cut short by the sounds of breaking doors and police shouts. By dawn, Serbia woke up to news that echoed like a bombshell. Veljko Belivuk has fallen. Marko Milkovic has fallen. The clan that for years was whispered to be stronger than the state has fallen. In the first hours, most people thought this was just another arrest in a long line. Another show for the public in the war against the mafia. But as the days passed and details from the investigation leaked to the public, it became clear that this was no ordinary criminal group. This was not a story about drug smuggling or racketeering. This was a story about a death cult. Secret rooms hidden behind concrete walls were discovered. Industrial meat grinders were discovered. Photos of mutilated bodies that the killers sent to each other as trophies, laughing in the faces of their victims, and life itself were discovered. A monstrosity unseen on European soil since the dark 90s, and perhaps not even then, was uncovered. Who is the man they called Velja Nevolja, Velja the Trouble? How did a boy who survived a family massacre become the leader of the notorious Principi, Principles? How did a football club's grandstand become a front for the most brutal branch of an international drug cartel? And the most important question that still hangs in the air like gunpowder smoke: who created them? Who protected them for years while they sowed fear on Belgrade streets? And why were they cut loose on that exact morning? This is the dossier on Veljko Belivuk. This is the anatomy of a slaughterhouse. To understand the monster, we must go back to the place where the man was broken. We must go back to the past, to the year 1995. Veljko Belivuk is only 9 years old. He lives in Zvezdari in an apartment that should be his sanctuary. But one winter, that sanctuary becomes a tomb. February 13th, 1995. A horrific explosion echoes through the family apartment. His father, Nebojša Belivuk, in a state of severe derangement, detonates 2 hand grenades. The goal was self-destruction, but also the destruction of everything he loves. In that massacre, right before the eyes of 9-year-old Veljko, his mother Branka and his grandmother die. The father takes his own life. Veljko and his younger brother miraculously survive physically, even though they were in the same apartment, surrounded by smoke, blood, and body parts of their closest relatives. He survived, but psychologists and criminologists agree on one thing. That day, in that apartment in Zvezdari, a part of Veljko Belivuk died forever. Only a shell remained, filled with trauma, rage, and silence. He grew up with relatives, carrying the heavy burden of being a killer's son on his back. The street became his real home, and fists were the only language he understood and respected. As a teenager, he didn't choose books. He chose weights and martial arts. He started working as a bouncer on Belgrade's river clubs, Splavovi. That is a harsh school. There, you learn the hierarchy of force very quickly. If you strike first and strike hard, they respect you. If you show mercy or weakness, you are finished. Belivuk learned the lesson. He became famous for his brutality, for his willingness to go a step further than others. But he found a true sanctuary in a place where rage has a purpose, where violence has an audience. On the south stand of the Partizan Stadium, there among thousands of voices, an anonymous and traumatized young man finds a new family, finds an identity. However, Belivuk was no ordinary fan singing songs and waving a flag. He was a soldier. His physical readiness and cold-bloodedness quickly set him apart from the crowd. In the beginning, he was part of the Alcatraz group, but the winds on the stand were changing. A new generation was coming, hungrier, more dangerous, ready for anything. A generation that wouldn't just cheer, but would take over the business. The key moment in Veljko Belivuk's rise, the moment that transforms him from an ordinary thug into a criminal leader, is his friendship with Aleksandar Stankovic, known as Sale Mutavi, Sal the Mute. Stankovic was a figure rarely encountered, charismatic, intelligent, dangerous, and with a clear vision. He forms the Janissaries group. The name was symbolic and cynical. The core of the group consisted of former fans of the rival Red Star, who crossed over to the South Stand to impose order. But it was clear to everyone that the goal was not football. Football was just a front. The real goal was taking over the narcotics market and security businesses in Belgrade. The grandstand was a recruitment center, and the stadium was the base. Belivuk becomes the right hand of Sale Mutavi, his most loyal lieutenant, his pit bull. Together they cleared the stand of the undesirable. The methods were brutal: beatings, public humiliations, intimidation. They became a terror not only at the stadium, but also in the city. The year 2016 brings an incident that showed the public the true face of Veljko Belivuk for the first time. In front of the Partizan Stadium, security cameras capture a brutal attack on the security of the club's general director, Miloš Vazura. The video shows Belivuk knocking a man out and then brutally stomping on his head while he lies unconscious on the concrete. Serbia was shocked by the brutality of the video that played on all the news. But even more shocking was the reaction of the state for that attempted murder. Because what else can you call stomping on an unconscious man's head? Belivuk receives an incredibly light sentence: house arrest without electronic monitoring. Even then, whispers went through the city. These guys are not alone. Someone is protecting them. Someone powerful stands behind them and holds an umbrella while indictments pour down. But in the criminal world, protection is never eternal, and debts are paid in blood. October 13th, 2016, an intersection near the central prison in Belgrade. A burst from an automatic weapon ends the reign of Sale Mutavi. He is killed in his Audi, professionally, cold-bloodedly. Belivuk was nearby. Witnesses say he screamed in rage, that he hit cars. He lost a brother, a commander, and a mentor. Many thought that was the end of the Janjichari. They thought the decapitated group would break apart and disappear. They were wrong. The death of Sale Mutavi did not destroy the group. It created something much worse. From the ashes of the Janjichari, under the absolute leadership of Veljko Belivuk, the Principi are born. And with them, a man who will become synonymous with sadism steps onto the scene: Marko Milikovic. If Belivuk was the muscle, the face, and the charisma of the group, Marko Milikovic was its dark mind. They called him Mesar, the butcher. He didn't get the nickname by accident. While Belivuk was impulsive, Milikovic was calculating. It was said that he was the one who advocated for the cruelest methods. Allegedly, he used to say, "Why should we kill him right away? Let him suffer, let him sing." The two of them become a tandem of death. They change the group's name to Principi, invoking Gavrilo Princip, attempting to give their crime a note of false patriotism. But behind that mask hid pure criminal interest. They take full, totalitarian control over the South Stand. They turn the Partizan Stadium into their private fortress. In the premises of the former restaurant at the stadium, they make their bunker. That was no ordinary fan room. That was a base. There they kept weapons. There they repackaged drugs. There they had a gym. And most terrifying of all, there they brought victims for informative talks. For years, the police did not enter there. It was an extraterritorial territory of the mafia in the heart of Serbia's capital. You would walk past the stadium, not suspecting that behind the walls, perhaps at that very moment, someone's bones were being broken. But to become the kings of the city, they needed merchandise, they needed cocaine, and they needed a powerful backing. At that time, a bloody war was raging between two clans from Kotor, the Shkaljari and the Kavach clans, a war that claimed dozens of lives across Europe. Radoje Zvisar, the mysterious leader of the Kavach clan, was looking for an army in Belgrade. He was looking for people ready for anything. He found them in Belivuk and Milkovic. A pact was made. Belivuk and Milkovic become the main operatives of the Kavach clan for Serbia. Their task was twofold: the distribution of huge quantities of cocaine arriving from South America, and more importantly, the systematic elimination of the Shkaljari members and anyone else who stood in their way. This alliance brought them millions of euros, luxury cars, apartments, but it also dragged them into a war where no rules exist. A war that would turn Belgrade into a testing ground for the most heinous liquidations. Liquidations on the street, car bombs and ambushes attract too much attention. They disrupt business. Belivuk and Milkovic wanted something cleaner, something that leaves no traces, something that leaves the police powerless. They buy a cottage in Ridipek, a quiet suburban neighborhood on the banks of the Danube. From the outside, an ordinary holiday house with a high fence and video surveillance. From the inside, hell on earth. This house would become known as the Slaughterhouse, and that name was not a metaphor. In the garage of the house, behind a shelf, there was a secret passage, a hole in the wall that led to a hidden room without windows. That room did not exist in the house's blueprints. The walls and floors were covered with tiles for easier cleaning of blood-soaked surfaces. In the middle of the room stood an industrial meat grinder. The methodology of the clan was gruesome and always the same, they would lure the victim with a story about a weapon sale or a favorable price for cocaine. They often used the phones of already abducted associates, so-called sky devices, to send a message of trust. The victim would come to the meeting suspecting nothing. They would enter the yard, and at that moment, the gate would lock. There was no way out anymore. Goran Velichkovic Goksi, leader of a rival fan group, Milan Yapoya, a member of the international Pink Panther group, Zdravko Radojevic, a Red Star fan, Lazar Vukicevic, they all ended up in that room. What happened inside is hard to say out loud, let alone imagine. Hours, sometimes days of torture. Milkovic and Belivuk, according to the testimonies of associates who spoke out later, enjoyed it. They demanded that the victims unlock their sky phones to reach the contacts of their bosses, Radoje Zvisar, people from the Shkaljari clan. They used irons, axes, knives. After killing the victim, they butchered the bodies, precisely as in a butcher shop. They put body parts into the industrial machine. They packed the remains into sacks, carried them to the Danube, which flows right below the house, and threw them into the river for the current to carry them away. With chemicals, hydrochloric acid and bleach, they washed the room until not a microscopic trace of DNA remained. Their motto was, no body, no crime. They believed they had committed the perfect crime. They believed that if the police couldn't find a corpse, they couldn't do anything to them. And for years, they succeeded. People disappeared in the middle of the day. Families desperately sought answers, and Belivuk laughed. They believed they were untouchable. They believed they were invisible. Their main weapon of communication, but also their biggest weakness, was the Sky ECC application. Encrypted phones that allegedly no police force in the world could wiretap. They cost thousands of euros, and every serious criminal had one. They were so confident in that technology that they used it not only to arrange drug transports, but also for sick bragging. That is where the key to their downfall lies, in arrogance. They took photos of the massacred bodies. They took selfies with tied up, beaten victims right before the execution. They sent those pictures to Radoje Zvisar in Montenegro, along with messages of delight. They sent them to the rival clan as a warning message. "Look at the doll," they wrote next to the image of a mutilated man. "Mexico in the middle of Belgrade," they bragged, comparing their methods to the cruelest Mexican cartels. They laughed in the face of death, convinced that those pictures would never leave the closed circle of their application. But they didn't know one thing. In the spring of 2021, in one of the largest international police operations in history, French, Belgian, and Dutch police achieved the impossible. They breached the servers of the Sky application. Suddenly, the digital fortress fell. Thousands of messages, voice recordings, and monstrous photographs found themselves in the hands of Europol. When this data arrived in Serbia through international legal assistance, experienced investigators fell silent. They didn't just have suspicions or clues. They had a live broadcast from hell. They had confessions, photos of the crimes, locations, names. The ball began to unroll with incredible speed. Today, the trial of the Belivuk Milikovic clan is the trial of the decade. The indictment, written on hundreds of pages, reads like a script for a horror movie. They are charged with 7 aggravated murders, kidnappings, rape, illegal possession of weapons, and drug trafficking. In the courtroom, behind the glass, they show no remorse. On the contrary, they laugh, they jeer. They still behave as if they are on the grandstand, as if they are masters of the situation. Belivuk, in a white t-shirt, often with that recognizable cynical half-smile of his, denies all crimes, claiming that the evidence was fabricated and the photos photoshopped. But the most terrifying moment of the trial was the appearance of the cooperating witnesses, people from their innermost circle who decided to speak out in exchange for lighter sentences. Srđan Lalić, the clan's IT expert, the man from that famous photograph where he smiles while holding a victim's head, became the smiling butcher who broke the omerta. For days, Lalić described the details of the crimes in a calm, almost monotonous voice. He described how the victims begged for mercy. He described the smell of blood and acid in the room in Ritopek. He described how they joked while grinding human meat. His testimony was so detailed and gruesome that people in the audience, and even some lawyers, felt sick. The defense is still trying to throw out the evidence from the Sky application, claiming it was obtained illegally, that it was hacking, and that it cannot be used in court. That is their last straw, but the photos are there. The bodies may be gone because the Danube swallowed them, but the bloody traces on the walls of the house in Ritopek told their story. DNA does not lie. Veljko Belivuk and Marko Milkovic will, by all accounts, spend the rest of their lives behind bars. The prosecution is seeking life sentences, and it is hard to imagine a different outcome given the weight of the evidence. The house in Ritopek is sealed, a silent monument to human depravity and evil that knows no bounds. But as the dust settles, one question remains that haunts every citizen of Serbia. Is the clan dead? On the stands, the same flags still hang. The same faces, just a bit younger, still lead the cheering. The drug business hasn't stopped. Cocaine still flows through the streets of Belgrade. Only the routes and the dealers may have changed. Some new kids, fascinated by the myth of Velja Nevolja, paint murals with his likeness on Belgrade's facades, seeing him as some kind of modern outlaw, Hajduk, and not a monster. The Kavic clan still operates, and its leader, Radoje Zvikar, is still on the run, elusive to the world's police forces. The Belivuk case is a mirror of a society. It showed us how thin, almost invisible, the line between the state and the mafia is. It showed us what happens when violence is tolerated, when hooligans are used for dirty work, and when monsters are fed for the sake of higher interests. The beast may currently be in a cage, behind thick prison walls, but the system that fed that beast, strengthened it, and unleashed it from its chain, that system is still there. Zoran Djindjic once said that in Serbia, weeds are watered. Veljko Belivuk was the most poisonous fruit of that watering, and while he awaits his verdict, Serbia awaits the answer to the question, who is next? Because in the darkness of the underworld, a vacuum never lasts long. Someone is always waiting to take the throne. This was the story of the rise and fall of Veljko Belivuk, a story that Serbia must not forget, because forgetting is fertile ground for new evil.